In this tutorial, we're going to look at various techniques in order for us to create the vectors that you can see here. We'll be looking at different ways that you can create and edit vectors to create different shapes. So let's go to File, Close. So we'll go and create a new file. So in here we've got our job setup form. This is where I'm going to specify some dimensions for my part. So I'm going to put in a width value of 12. We're going to give that a height of 4. I'll set my Z0 to be on top of the material block. Our material thickness is going to be 3/4 of an inch. Our XY datum position will be in the centre. We'll work with a high modelling resolution and we can press OK. So to help us draw our vectors, I'm going to switch on the snap grid, and we can access that by going to the edit option at the top here, and we can go to snap options. You can also see the shortcut key for that is F4, and this has brought up a form, and I want to select this option to snap to grid, and if I check that, you'll notice we've got a grid in our job space, and we can enter a specified value that we want to have our grid spaced at. So I'm going to put in a value of 1/4 of an inch and press OK. So that means that the distance between each of these dots is 1/4 of an inch. That way we can snap our lines, arcs and other vector shapes too. So the first vector that I want to create is a line that's going to run along the bottom of our part, and we're going to use that as a rail for modelling the part using the 2-rail sweep. So to help me do that, we're going to use the Draw a Polyline option, which is this option here. So I'm going to select that, and we can see that that's in the Draw Polyline mode. Now if I hover over any one of these dots, you can see that the cursor is changing. It's allowing me to snap to a point. Now I'm going to snap to the bottom left hand corner. We can see also that the software is telling me the position of this coordinate, so it's x minus 6, y minus 2. So I'm just going to click into position. We can see that's dragging out our polyline. And I just want to snap that to the right hand side. So I'm just going to snap that in position like so. So I'm going to click there, and then I'm just going to right mouse click to exit out of the polyline mode. So with this vector that we've just created, I'd like to create a copy of that exactly 1/2 inch above where it stands at the moment. So I'm going to select that again to put that into transform mode, and I'm going to hold down Control on the keyboard, which is going to allow me to create a copy, and I'm just going to move that up and snap that into position 2 dots up, as we know that that's each space between each dot is 1/4 of an inch. So we know the distance between these two vectors now is exactly 1/2 an inch. Okay, I'm going to do that again. So I'm going to select that, holding down Control on the keyboard. I'm going to snap that to the top point up here. Okay, and then I'm going to do that again, holding down Control. I'm going to snap that 3 points down, so it's 3/4 of an inch below the top vector here. And so we've accurately positioned and sized the vectors thanks to the snap grid. Now we want to create a vector that will be used for the cross section for our 2-rail sweep. So to do that, I'm going to use the option to draw a rectangle. So I'm going to select the Draw Rectangle option. I'm going to snap to the top left hand corner here. I'm just going to pull that out exactly by 1/4 of an inch and then bring that to the bottom, snap in position, and we've got our rectangle. Okay, so I'm just going to close that to come out of the Draw Rectangle tool. And now I'd like to edit the shape of the rectangle, so to do that I'm going to use the Node Editing option. So I'm going to select that, and that's going to put it into Node Edit mode. What I want to do is open up the bottom end. Now this is going to be our cross section, so it needs to be an open vector. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to hover over this span here, and if I right mouse click, we can see we've got lots of different options that we can do to this particular span. Now what I'd like to do is delete that span. You'll notice that we can also press D on the keyboard. That's our shortcut key to delete a span. So I'm going to select that. So that's removed this span here. So now we're just left with 3 spans, and we now have an open vector. what I'd like to do is input some points. So I'm going to hover over this area here. I'm just going to right mouse click. I'm going to use the option to insert a point, or I could use I on the keyboard as a shortcut key to do that. Put that in position and hover somewhere around the bottom here. And again, right mouse click and say insert a point, or I on the keyboard. I'm going to select this node. I'm just going to snap that to position there and select this one and snap that in place here. Okay, to select multiple nodes, I'm just going to, using the mouse, I'm just going to draw a rectangle, just using the left key on the mouse. That's going to select all of those nodes where I've put my selection in. And all I'm going to do is select one of those and just drag them over just to move that over. So now we've moved that over by 1/4 of an inch, and we know the distance between this node here and this node here is now 1/2 an inch. Okay, if I just go back into node edit there, and if I hover over this span here and right mouse click, I can use the option to Bezier this span. So it's going to allow me to create a curve. So I'm going to select that. I could also press B on the keyboard. That's the shortcut key to Bezier span. So I'm going to select that, and then I'm just going to select this control point here and pull that out, and select this one here, and also look at pulling that out also. So just snap that in position. I'm going to hover over this span here, and again I'm also going to Bezier this span. I'm going to press B to Bezier, and I'm just going to select this control point here and just pull that out into position, snap that there, and then hover over this span here, right mouse click, and then we're going to Bezier or B on the keyboard again. I'm going to select this control node, pull that out, and this one, and pull that out and snap that into position. So looking at the shape of that vector, I think this curved area is a bit too wide, so I'm just going to draw a rectangle over the control handles, and I'm just going to move those inwards a little. Okay. I can also look at using the arrow keys on the keyboard, so I can use the right arrow key just to pull that out a little bit more. And so now we've got our cross section ready. I can right mouse click to come out of the selection mode, right mouse click to come out of the node edit mode, and then I'm just going to select our cross section, select it again to put it into transform mode, and I'm just going to zoom out slightly using the wheel of my mouse, just pan that over, and I'm just going to move that over, snap that into position so it's out the way, as I don't need that at the moment until I start modelling the part. So let's use the option to zoom to fit, and so now we're going to sketch in our vector for our leaf design. Now I don't need this snap grid turned on, so I'm going to go over to the edit option at the top. I'm going to go to snap options. Remember the shortcut key is F4 for that. And I'm just going to switch off snap to grid and press OK. And in order for us to draw our vector, we're going to use the draw a polyline option. Now what I can do in here is I can insert a point and add that. So I'm going to put our first point x is 0, y is going to be 0, and if I press add, you can see that's added that point for me. And then I'm just going to roughly sketch in my designs. I'm just going to point in there, so I'm just clicked in place and that's put that in. And I'm just going to click here, and then click somewhere around here. Okay, then so to exit the polyline function, I'm just going to right click on my mouse like so. So now we've got our vector. I just need to edit that to make that a smooth shape, as we're going to use this in order for us to model the stalk. So we're going to go over to the node edit option. Okay, so I'm going to draw a rectangle over these 3 nodes here, and I'd like to smooth them all. So I'm going to press S on the keyboard. That's the shortcut key to smooth a node. like so. Then I'm just going to work through each of these nodes and adjusting their handles and the node positionings until I'm happy with the shape of the vector. So I'm just going to select this handle here, and I'm just going to pop that on the other side. That's so that that flows through the centre of the part nicely. And then I'm just going to look at levelling out all of the other handles. I'm just going to pull that over like so, then put that one up there. And then I'm just going to just move them over and start creating a shape that I'm happy with. So I'm just going to pull this one out a little bit more over here. And I might just pull this control handle over here to give that a nice curvature. Maybe bring that down and across. Maybe pull that out a little like so. Okay, so you just work through this until you're happy with your overall shape. And then once you're happy with the shape, we can then come out of the node edit mode and think about drawing our leaf. Okay, so I'm happy with that. So let's go back into the normal selection mode. And we're going to use the draw polyline tool to draw our leaf. Okay, so I'm just going to snap to the top of our stem here and then just roughly sketch in a rough leaf shape like so. I'm just going to find that point to snap to where there's a node here. You see that there? So the cursor's changed. That's telling me that there's a node there. I'm snapping to that node. And then we'll just come out, draw in the rest of the leaf and then snap that in position. Okay, we'll close that, and now we can look at editing the shape of the leaf. So again, we're going to select that, and we're going to go into the node edit mode and alter the shape of that. So I'm going to select these two nodes here, and I'm going to press S on the keyboard to smooth them. And I'm going to select these two and also press S here. And so like we did for the stem, we're just going to make edits by manually editing the nodes and their handles. So I'm just going to select this control handle here. I'm just going to pull that up. And I think I've made this area a bit too large, so I'm just going to select the node and just bring that in just to make that a little bit smaller. And we'll bring this one down also. We'll pull on the handles just to really transform the shape of the vector. So we're completely controlling the way that the vector looks, or the shape of the vector, just by pulling on the control handles or moving the nodes around. I'm going to select this control handle here. I'm just going to pull that down just to give that a bit of curvature on this side here. I'm going to select this one. Might make that a little bit smaller also just by pulling that in. I'm going to pull this one out to give that a nice rounded shape at the bottom there. And bring this one down. Okay, and if I wanted to, I could just click in the white space just to see how that shape looks. Okay, so I'm almost happy with that. I can just click back in to go back into the node edit mode. Shrink that down a little. Maybe bring this down also. Okay, again I'm just going to click in the white space, and I think I'm happy with the shape of that vector. So let's go back into normal selection mode. So what I would like to do is I'd like to edit the outline of our leaf so that we have two separate regions. So we're going to have one region that will represent this top section of the leaf and one that's going to represent the bottom here. And the reason for that is I'd like to use the Create Shape tool to model each half of the leaf. And so to do that, I'm going to use the stalk to divide our leaf in two. So I'm going to select our leaf just to help me keep organised. I'm just going to right mouse click and I'm going to say move to layer. I'm going to give that a new layer and I'm going to call that edit. I'm going to make that invisible, inactive and press OK. Then I'm going to select our stalk, and this time I'm going to right mouse click and I'm actually going to use the option to copy to layer. Okay, so we're going to copy to layer. I'm going to copy that to the edit layer that we've just created. Okay, so if we go to our Layers tab, I'm just going to switch off Layer 1, switch on the Edit layer, select it by selecting the Edit name to make that the active layer. We can see we've got our copy of our stem and we've got our leaf vector there. So as I said, we're going to use the stalk in order for us to divide up our leaf. So I'm just going to deselect that by pressing in the white space. And I'm going to use this option over here, the interactive trim. So I'm going to select that. That's essentially just going to trim my vectors. Okay, so I'm just going to close that. So now we've got the centre of our stalk there, and we've got our leaf. Now, in order for us to create two sections, I need to edit this vector here and cut that so we've got two separate vectors. So to do that, I need to go into the node edit mode. So we're going to go over to node editing, or I could press N on the keyboard. I'm just going to hover over this span here, right mouse click and press C on the keyboard, or I could just use the cut vector option here to cut that. I'm going to hover over this span again, cut vector, or I could use C on the keyboard to do that. So I'm just going to right mouse click to come out of the selection mode, right mouse click again to put that back into selection mode. And we can see now we have three separate vectors. So all we did was cut our vector in two. So now we've got our three separate vectors, we can think about joining them to create the two separate regions. Now in order for me to do that, I must make a copy of our stalk vector here. So I'm going to right mouse click, I'm just going to use the option copy, or I could use Control C on the keyboard. Okay, so that's copied that to the clipboard. With that selected, I'm going to hold down Shift, select this left side of the leaf here. And I'm just going to go over to the join open vectors. We can see that at this tolerance it's going to create one closed vector. So I'm going to press join and close. So now we've got one closed vector. I'm going to right mouse click, I'm going to paste in the stalk that we copied. Okay, so you can see that there. I'm going to hold down Shift, select this vector here, and again go into the join open vectors option. Again at the same tolerance, it closes that. So we're going to join, close that, and now we have two separate regions. And what I'd like to do is create a copy of the bottom region here, just make a smaller version of that. So to do that, with that selected, I'm going to select that again to put that into transform mode. And if I hold down Control, that creates a copy. And if I also hold down Shift, when I scale that down, it's going to scale that in proportion, like so. And if I let go, you can see we've got our copy there. So if I just zoom in, I'm just going to rotate that slightly just so we're overlapping the centre line there. I'm just going to rotate that again, I've done that a bit too much. And you'll see how we're going to use this vector when we come to the modelling stage of the project. Okay, so I'm happy with that. Let's zoom to fit there. And we can bring those vectors back to our original layer. So an easy way for me to do this is I can go to the Layers tab, and if I just right mouse click on the Edit layer and just say Delete, it gives me the option to move all the data to a layer. So we're going to move that to Layer 1, I'm going to press OK, and if I switch that on, we can see now that we have all of the vectors that we need. So if we go back to the Drawing tab, and the last thing that I like to do is create our cross sections that we're going to use to extrude along our stalk when it comes to the modelling stage. So let's go and draw a circle. So I'm just going to roughly sketch in a circle like so, and then put in a value for my diameter. I'm going to give that a value of 3/8 of an inch, so I'll put in 0.375, press apply and close. As I mentioned earlier, if we're wanting to create a cross section, it must be an open vector, so we need to open that up. So to do that, let's go into the node edit mode, zoom in slightly. I'm just going to right mouse click over this span here and say delete, or I could press D on the keyboard. I'm going to do the same for this one, so right mouse click and delete span. Okay, I'm just going to right mouse click to come out of the node edit mode, and we can see we've got our cross section. I'd like to make another cross section from this vector. It's just a smaller one, so we can create a variation in the shape of the stalk. So with that selected, I'm going to select that again. I'm going to press Ctrl to create a copy and Shift to scale that in proportion. I'm just going to bring that down like so. And then I'm just going to go and give that a specified size. So I'm going to go to Set Selected Object Size, and we're going to give that a width of 0.03, press Apply and close. So we can see now we have our two vectors for our cross sections. Let's just zoom selected. And now we're at a finished stage where we've looked at various techniques to draw up a set of vectors, from looking at the snapping grid in order for us to accurately position and size our vectors. We also looked at how we can manually edit vectors using the node edit options to create pleasing shapes. And now we have all of our vectors set up to model the part. So now let's go ahead and save that file. So I'm going to go to File, Save As. We're going to call that Lily Leaf Vector. Let's save that. And then you can access that in the project folder.